What's that, British? I mean English? No, stuff, you know, the lingo out there. Oh yes, I suppose so. Not too bad.
Bum, bum, bum. Okay. This is an oddly close episode 7, I guess, maybe 6.5. That'll make this difference. Lots of bizarre stuff happening lately. Mueller comes in and says that there's no collusion, at least not with Russia. I mean, the Republicans and the Democrats have colluded for decades and to keep other voices out. And that's never investigated. But the one-party system, the thing that keeps ballot access almost impossible in most places, including Canada, it's amazing. I have to, in Canada, I have to get 100 signatures to run in a riding I live in, which means I can't vote for the person I'd want to vote for, like a libertarian or anything like that, because they usually can't make those 100 signatures. Well, that's the sort of thing, you know, it's like ballot access basically says you can't vote for who you want to vote for. That's the ballot access rules, usually. Ballot access rules are very hostile to freedom and liberty and all that sort of thing. Anyway, in the small case popped up, and someone decided to use their wealth and power to get away with stuff that no one else could do. But on the other side, he wasn't actually put in jeopardy. So he could be tried again. Or at all, actually. It's not even a matter of tried again. He wasn't tried, period. He just weaseled his way out. That's a whole problem, too. If someone's not willing to face the trial, what are they really hiding? You know? Yeah, and anyway, we've got those problems. It's an atrocious situation. I mean, why would Chicago cops even want to investigate a hate crime now? They can't even have them punished properly for falsifying it. I mean, well, it's not like Chicago was always known for the... it's amazing that the worst part of this is that Rahm Emanuel actually has the moral high ground for the first time ever. It's just unbelievable. That's what the only one that's what comes out of it. Well, let's see. Any other tidbits? So in Penticton, BC, people have been dropping trash on a native reserve, which is rather disgusting. I mean, or any type of forestry, it's pretty disgusting. It's just wantonly dump stuff just to save a buck. But this would have been solved if we just ended the Indian Act. We made all the reservations independent towns, like that respect individual property rights and individual freedoms, like Switzerland, you know, little Switzerlands all over the place, or Liechtensteins, or whatever you want to, whatever the self-determinations decide to make it, and no one's spending money on them. They're able to decide for themselves how things work out. It ends the ministry in place to hereditary system with their chieftains. That sort of thing. I mean, the hereditary system, I mean, that's just awful. I mean, it's sort of like an extension, so it's just like an extension of the monarchistic system that came and took this place over, and that we kind of still have now, but they decided to appoint families in charge of these reserves and stuff, just to make some of them need to have a job that they really need to hold on to, and need a station. And with that station, they start thinking, well, it's not so bad. We have this Indian Act and this ministry hoarding all over us and oppressing us. And the same thing in the States. It's like States as the interior minister, interior minister, maybe more pro. Well, I guess it's not more commie, but in interior department, and there's a mumbo jumbo. Well, we also have to watch parks, and parks can't be city central. Yes, they can. And the fact is, states would not be able to sell parks to pay debts. States are only allowed to use gold and silver, technically, to pay debts. That's in the Constitution of the United States. Yes, I read the Constitution. It's in the back. My Federalist papers over here, which I even keep closer to me than a Bible. And this is a good one. Look for this. It's a very good manual for proper Federalist constitutionalism, which is essentially the United States system. Let's see. It's the best system possible, I think. I mean, as long as it's enforced, and it hasn't gotten enforced for about 100 years at least. Aside from Calvin Coolidge, I guess. Was it less than 100 years? Maybe that was 100 years ago, Calvin Coolidge, by now. No, it wasn't 100 years ago. It was nearly 100 years ago. Calvin Coolidge. Calvin Coolidge was a great guy. He was probably not by party name, but he was probably the only completely libertarian president ever. But that's it. Reagan may have came close a bit, but yeah, well, that was kind of cool. But there's a question of the Libertarian Party right now is a question in the States about 2020. Do we let a Republican congressman run for our party presidency and presidential candidate, run as a presidential candidate? And I say, Justin Amash, he might have a good record, but the fact is, the one thing that the libertarians need to help them argue themselves into debates and stuff like that is someone to sit as a libertarian in Congress. Now, if he wants to run as a libertarian presidential candidate, maybe he should change his affiliation in Congress to Libertarian Party of his state, and that would give him or anybody who's nominated for the presidential candidacy an ability to say, look, we even have a congressman now, so we should be in the debates. And the fact that if you're not willing to sit, even if you won as a Republican or a Democrat, if you're not willing to sit as a Libertarian or a Green or whatever and so on, and you decide to go into a party nomination, you're an asshole. I mean, you're a two-faced asshole. I mean, the idea that you even get the nomination would be disturbing. So, I mean, really, don't be an asshole. Speaking of which, with the Trump thing, I mean, why do they hold on to this confirmation bias? Everyone should drop their confirmation bias as much as possible and try to look at, and change, or at least change their biases as it isn't confirmed. I mean, sure, Trump isn't colluding, at least as far as anyone can prove, and they spent a long time at it. Sure, there's a lot of embarrassment because people jumped the gun, but he's less of a warmonger than Bush or Obama or Clinton or Bush Sr. And sadly, he is the best since Reagan, and that's no compliment to him and it's a huge insult to the others. But well, I guess it's honest, so an honest criticism cannot be really an insult, because it's even respectful, to be honest, about things. Like, but here's the thing. If you don't like Trump, that's cool. I'm not crazy about a lot of the shit he does either. Omnibus spending bill, crap. He cuts, as Gabbard properly said, he is being a bitch to the Saudis. He's a bitch to the Zionists. He's a bitch to, which is a really weird. That's a really weird gangbang, right? I mean, like, you got the, I don't know who gets the ass. Does Israel get the ass? Do the Saudis get the mouth, or what? I mean, it's like a real Eiffel Tower over there in Arabia right now. It's like the presidents come in, and then they just bend over, and one side fucks his face, and the other side fucks his ass, and that's the way it looks anyway. Wouldn't that be an interesting meme, huh? Saudi prince on one side, and I guess Netanyahu until is he thrown out yet or not, or is he just indicted? Or on the other side, and just it's fucking crazy. Yeah, I mean, but he is a trying piece with simply. Why would we want him to be a fucking corrupt, low-life piece of shit anyway? He's an asshole. You can say he's an asshole all the time. It's slightly subjective, but it's probably the most subjective truth you could probably get on him right now. I mean, fuck. I mean, it's two, and the oddly enough smallest lawyer, and the lawyer of the major screw over of that porn star. Yeah, he's screwed. Are in legal trouble too, which is a really weird tie-in to all this. And Jesus, did you think of that? He's wild. What kind of crazy crap is going on out here? I mean, this world is getting wacky. It's getting wacky for a wacky time. I remember, it's not even quite funny, because back when Clinton was around, you could just tell that it was so easy to write jokes. Oh, it was so easy to write jokes. I mean, you can write 100 jokes in 2 days when Clinton was around. I mean, there was all sorts of shit going on then. But at least you can say what you want about Ken Starr, but he at least found a fucking dress with spunk on the fucking front, on the damn thing. I mean, yeah, I mean, there was a stained dress. He got witnesses and so on, who proved that he lied under oath. And I think lying under oath is a very serious thing. See, he actually did show that there was an obstruction of justice. That's what lying under oath is, essentially. So, Mueller wasted a lot of money, and he couldn't even find that much. All that money, and he couldn't find that much. I mean, really. And really, if you can't find... I mean, he couldn't even find jaywalking. It's, you know, you could impeach on jaywalking. It says high crimes and misdemeanors, and jaywalking is a misdemeanor. But, oh, maybe it's just a bylaw infraction. But still, I mean, if you, I mean, you think they would actually try to find something small, like find out if he did a misdemeanor so they can run an impeachment trial. I'm okay with that. Not enough presidents got impeached. Not enough of them did. They needed more impeachment trials. I mean, Jefferson said it wasn't enough of a scare, and he was probably right, because he didn't think enough people would end up using it, and that's probably true. I don't think enough have used it in the past, especially recent past. We need to see an end. I mean, look at South Korea. I mean, I remember South Korea often they charge their presidents all the time with crimes. I mean, it's just you can't get away. You couldn't get away with shit there. At least it was in the '90s and early 2000s. I think stuff like that. You really have to work hard at hiding shit there. I mean, they don't like to hold on to their corrupt crap either. But, I mean, you don't. That's the biggest problem. You gotta be a real dirtbag to want your rulers to be shitty. I mean, really. I mean, yeah, you might expect them to be shitty, but want them to be that way. I mean, you should want to be proven wrong. I mean, that's the problem with confirmation bias. You don't want to be proven wrong, and that's bad. If it's a bad thing anyway, if it's a good thing, I mean, if you're saying there's a heaven, there's a nice place, and you get to watch all the rapists getting burnt away in hell and tortured, that's a confirmation worth wanting to happen. Speaking of which, forget the church for a moment. If you are a legislator and you've never legislated that pedophiles should go to jail forever, for their entire life and their burial, you are complicit in their rape. And this should go for all rapists and even pattern killers. And that's the thing. Sentencing. Okay, so maybe in the 70s and early 80s they were a little ignorant about it. Well, even the late 80s they were big ignorant about it. Oh, the mental illness, it's a mental illness. Well, so was the church. The church doesn't have jails. I mean, Christ. Well, that's the thing. I mean, we have to look at all this stuff and think, I mean, how much justice do you expect there to be anywhere for people who are victims of it? And right now we go and the Dutch police have a woman who's on TED Talks just saying, oh, they're just victims of a bad childhood. And they got other people placating their responsibilities, saying they're lonely because they can't get married as priests and they can't do this, they can't do that. And we should understand them and fuck that crap. It's an ultimate evil. I mean, it is so horrible. It's an impulse issue. It's an impulse control issue, and it can't be fixed. It's an abomination beyond redemption. It's a thing that the Catholic Church should ban confession for. They should not give, and they should allow priests to rat out confessions of child rape. Because there is no real absolution for this. There's no real absolution for this. Now you couldn't expect a priest to be able to figure out a pattern killer from a confession. That would be very difficult. But and if you can't really see them through a grate, you'd have problems. I can see, but you can refuse to absolve them, and you can turn and at that point you can also, there would be less reason to close ranks against other people who were ruining the religion for everybody. That sort of thing. But what we really need we really seriously need people to. We need laws that put these people away forever. I mean, can we really be certain the church has really any more trust in the law than the law has of them right now? I mean, because, let's say you turn a priest and you still know that you can't watch him, and you know the prison system will only watch him for 10, 15 years, 20 maybe. Maybe he'll go to a lock-off prison in Canada, and he'll get to walk away, sneak away, and molest kids while he goes back to Matt Squeed at night and stuff like that, and as the day passes. And then, of course, he might get off early because not just your behavior, like a conditional release. That's conditional release. Again, I mean, god damn. We always hear about these sex offenders being put away, being released to neighborhoods and stuff like that. People find out somehow because there's no actual list, and I think the list is just an excuse to not put them away forever, as I define it. Life plus burial. Let's call it that. No good behavior release, no nothing. Good behavior means you don't get corporal punishment. How's that? You know, it's that sort of, it's something of such an extreme, that sort of thing. Good behavior means maybe you get to be segregated from the rest of the prison population that doesn't know and they don't get to know you're a pedophile until, you know, things like that. I mean, rape is heinous. And the fact that the lawmakers never make it an infinity prison sentence is outrageous. I find it incensing. I have a personal attachment, I won't name the names, but I got family members that have suffered such a heinous victimization. And that person, and because of a terrible system, they managed to get away. I mean, they also try to make it out like this person's a dancer, so she deserved to go. She deserved it, but they try to play it. That was in the 80s, and which is disgusting. And the person couldn't even see her dance either. I mean, it was the child of it was the teenage boy of the people who ran the bar she was working at. It's just disgusting. Fucking disgusting. And it's amazing how not long ago that is. I mean, the fact that such primitive notions that earlier, it's just really, it's terrible. So we got thousands of laws to go around and enforce anyway, and this forfeiture and crap like that. Stupid little laws, big little laws. You have a perfect, I mean, if you got like maybe 10 laws, or a few very small laws, like a basic law that says you can do what you want, just don't hurt anybody else. You can do what you can hurt yourself if you want, but don't make anyone else pay for it. You know, don't steal other people's stuff, don't hurt the other people, you know, basic little rules like that. Those simple laws. You don't go raping, you don't go stealing, you don't go killing. And you actually prove people do something. You give them due process. You don't just arrest them because they look suspicious or look guilty because of certain physical attributes. That sort of thing ain't right. So, yeah, okay, so we got that. So, yeah, I mean, most laws should be like the U.S. Constitution and really just be enforced upon the government and long-term collective organizations, public companies, that sort of thing. Long-term lobbying groups, that sort of, you know, not the short-term right in the First Amendment that says you can freely associate and peacefully assembled, temporary to right of grief of. I should read it from the book over there, but I'll just jot it. It's in the First Amendment anyway. But it's not like creating a permanent group or anything. It's like it's like Bastiat's The Law, good book. I recommend you go get Bastiat's Law. It's not that big, and give it a read. It's a very good basic idea. Basically, what I've been saying about things, and it's a ideal. It's terribly problem. It's a problem, and we're good. We got some weird stuff. I mean, it's a weird time because we even have these people who are in Vancouver right now. They're big on shutting down a rape relief clinic. Now, I'm not necessarily for having government funding for everything and stuff like that, but pulling the rug from underneath them is terrible under any circumstance, even under my type of budgeting. If I were mayor right now, I mean, it's cruel from my standpoint, and I'm a libertarian, and this is a thing, and they do it all on the grounds of virtue signaling, and because of a federal law pushing trans rights and fuck. If you're so fundamentally pro-trans, then to say trans and not just say woman, because they don't give a shit about trans male. People who transition from female to male, they don't give a shit about them. They can go to those rape centers because they're genetically female. They're not discriminating against for being trans. They're just discriminating for being born male, which, granted, MRAs might be a little bit, although this does point to the MRA point that discrimination usually has more to do with you being a born male than anything else, and maybe that's sometimes why transsexuals are conservatives, and even libertarians and stuff like that. But if you look up the guy who made an interesting point, I think it was a honey badger, but he was a gay MRA guy. He was on the honey badger. I think he's the queen of. I'll find his channel. I'll try to link it to the video when the video gets published on BitTune. And I'll see if he even has a BitTune account too. But let's see. And when it's on YouTube later. But here's the interesting thing. Here's the point to make. It's more anti-male than anything, and they are pushing second-wave feminism and stuff like that. They have attitudes of sex workers, but they're wrong. They're not against the sex worker. They're against the Johns and the pimps. So they're not going to deny a sex worker help. They can't. I don't believe their mission even says that. That's a whole problem. They mistaken missions for attitudes and stuff like that. I don't necessarily agree with what they're pushing, but it's still dangerous to pull the rug from underneath them. I like the idea that they're proving how bad an idea government funding is, because it clearly fails here. I mean, because of simple virtue signaling, they've lost the funding, and that's the problem with government. You end up with nutcases like this who decide to screw a few victims over for a victim culture, which is really bizarre. It's like believe women, but unless they believe women are women when they transition, some nonsense like that. I mean, it's a shame that they don't have a clinic for men and people born male. That's a shame. But, I don't think anyone ever stopped anyone from starting one. I don't think anyone ever stopped anyone from starting a trans one or a trans open one or anything like that. I think it was perfect. I think they could have, they could do it without being a shoehorn about it. But they could,